You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. I'll be your host this week, Ali. You can follow me on X at FF Dynasty Grill. And with me, as always, is my amazing co-host, Kev. His computer's finally finished updating. He's with us. You can follow him on X at the Dynasty Mind. Kev, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing awesome, mate. Yeah, got my rookie rankings all sorted now, so cannot wait to dive in. I know it's our third show on rookies this off-season, but I think this is where the fun truly begins, where we're doing this this deep look at each of the positions. So super excited, and we've got the best for you tonight.
We have indeed, and that's where we bring on our third co-host, the awesome Mags, who's hoping it's not going to be a car crash of a show. You can follow him on X at Hot Seat Mags. Mags, is it a bit too early for jokes like that?
I mean, yeah, I was just talking to you before air about good old Rashi Rice and all things Kansas City, but yeah, we'll maybe see if that for the off-air chat. But at least, yeah, Lewis Rees-Salmon's got a shot now, Ali, so that's exciting, right?
Oh, hell yeah. That is interesting. I mean, I don't know what your Chiefs are doing because they're just ruining me. I'm trading for Rashi Rice the last few weeks. That pick, that has absolutely burnt me. They're signing Carson Wentz, they're signing J.K. Dobbins potentially, and some Welsh bloke who plays rugby. This is absolute insanity, but I'm all here for it. Cannot wait to see how it all unfolds. It is truly the crazy off season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're right there, Kev. You hinted that we are going to be taking more of a deep dive tonight into the rookies. So cannot wait for this. We'll be talking the rookies at quarterback and tight end. We're going to pitch them together because it's a decent tight end class, I want to say. Last year we were spoiled. There's certainly a couple of names that we want to talk about, plus potentially sprinkle in a couple more shout outs. So we'll get to them towards the end of the show, but we are starting with the quarterbacks naturally. And who else are we going to talk about but Caleb Williams? So Kev, what's your thoughts on Caleb Williams when you dived into him? Is he your quarterback one? And is he your 101 in rookie draft formats?
Yeah, we thought we'd kick off the show with a guy that's not been spoken about by many Dynasty analysts this offseason, Caleb Williams. I think obviously he's the most well-known prospect in this class. He's been that for months and months and possibly even years. I think first of all, we'll try and keep it on a dynasty spin. I think there's ways that I could go off on a tangent and get political here and talk about some of the negativity he's had as a prospect, mainly because of the colour of his skin. I mean, if it was a white QB, rather than being called potentially gay or potentially unable to lead men, he'd be considered a trailblazer, someone that's inspiring and stuff like that. So it's terrible to see some of the things said in the media, but honestly, if we're keeping it dynasty, I've got absolutely no concerns. He's the most rock solid prospect in the class of QB, arguably at all positions. When we say the comps that you see Mahomes on tape, and we have said that it as a community that has come up before for lesser prospects like Zach Wilson and a few others, but genuinely, when you watch Caleb Williams, you see glimpses of Patrick Mahomes. We're not saying that's the average range of outcomes because it's not. It's near the top end, but I just think, so much to like about him as a player, both passer, both as a rusher as well. I mean, he's got to be the 101 for me. He's got to be the QB1, regardless of how you view the other prospects. In my model, he's not actually scored as a QB1 though, but he is still my QB1 because I think the prospect that's got a better score than him has a lot more risk. And I think at the 101, I don't have to make that risk for a guy we'll come on to in a little bit. But yeah, Caleb Williams, QB1, 101. what is it to say? It's already been said by everyone.
Yeah, he's what I find really fun actually about Caleb Williams. Most things that people have said about Caleb Williams, people listen to the show, they've already heard it. So actually, a much more fun thing to hear is I thought, let me go back and look and see how have the quarterbacks taken at the first overall pick actually done in the last 20 years. So here's the list, and it's real interesting really, because Caleb Williams is going to be somewhere between these guys. So in 2004, you've got Eli Manning, right? You're probably happy enough you got him. Then you got Alex Smith. I mean, not as good as people thought, but made a couple of Pro Bowls. Then you have Jamarcus Russell, right? Matthew Stafford went 1 overall, good. Then Sam Bradford went 1 overall, not so good. Then you had Cam Newton and Andrew Luck, which was a nice run. People forget Jameis Winston. He went number 1 overall.
I don't forget.
Yeah, you don't forget. I absolutely not. Jared Goff went 1 overall, so did Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and Trevor Lawrence before last year. Bryce Young went 1 overall. Every single one of those guys, people were dead excited about. I'm not sure if Caleb's at the top of that list. I actually think Andrew Luck probably hits the top of that list, followed by Trevor Lawrence. But I think Caleb Williams might be the third most hyped prospect out of all of those names that we just heard. But do I think he's got the potential to be an Andrew Luck? I'm not sure. He could be a Trevor Lawrence, though. And people kind of sniff their nose up at Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has been a hit, I think, for fantasy football. The way that he's come in, he's not flopped at all. I'm pretty happy to have Trevor Lawrence on my teams. And if Caleb starts similar to Trevor Lawrence, I'm not going to be too mad. I just want to pump the brakes a little bit on him being like a generational prospect, because I don't think he's quite there. I think we look at the last 20 years, there's only one generational prospect that we just said, and that was Andrew Luck. And I don't think Caleb's particularly close.
I thought that was interesting there, Mags, where you brought up Trevor Lawrence, and you say that you're happy to roster him. I think we've definitely we've spoken to him. We spoke the truth about Trevor Lawrence in his certainly his fantasy output the last couple of years, and it's not been where I expect it to be. But I think you're right. I think the name, and I think people are still excited about Trevor Lawrence. I still think he could put up 2 more average seasons, and people will still think Trevor Lawrence is generational and he's ready to take the next step. Blah blah blah. So I think Caleb Williams is going to be that type of prospect. I mean, I'd say he could definitely outscore Trevor Lawrence, but I just think he will hold value much like a Trevor Lawrence coming out because of the name brand. I mean, it's exciting already just to see the weapons that he's going to be landed with. And I think he does need to start off well, but I fully expect him to. I think he's definitely right up there in terms of them prospects for me. I've got no concerns about his character whatsoever. I see more Aaron Rodgers than I do Patrick Mahomes, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers is still a really good quarterback. It's just that
he's running for vice president as well. So
exactly. Certainly the scrambles and just the throwing off balance and just from all different angles is so impressive from Caleb Williams. Got absolutely no concerns from me. I will be taking him 101 in Superflex rookie drafts. Comfortably ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. I think is awesome, and he's going to be my 102. But yeah, I'm really excited for what Caleb Williams can bring. For me, he's quarterback. He fits in quarterback 9 in my rankings, but he's knocking on the door of a certain someone. So I want to. You boys know I like to throw out hypothetical scenarios. And as we're into the month of April, so the NFL draft is just around the corner. So this is my hypothetical scenario. The LA Chargers have been much talked about taking Joe Alt in round 1, right? If they do not take wide receiver, who we all want them to take wide receiver because of the link up with Justin Herbert. But if they don't, if they go Joe Alt, and then they perhaps draft a wide receiver in round 2, round 3. In a startup, would you take Caleb Williams over Justin Herbert? Is Herbert still far and away above Caleb Williams for you two? Or if they're going into the season with Quentin Johnson as potentially wide receiver 1 in an offense that could potentially not leave Justin Herbert with many passing opportunities. Who's higher in your dynasty rankings, Caleb Williams or Justin Herbert?
I mean, it's Caleb for me. I'm just going to try not to think about the situation for the Chargers because we know situations can change. But I think when we look back on Herbert, he's done well when he's had incredible pass volume. So I think despite Harbaugh being more run heavy traditionally, and even if it was just like an average NFL passing volume for Justin Herbert, I think the Boer is there. So just let me re-roll again on a guy that's going to be 101 in rookie drafts, and someone that I think in your startups is going to still have a lot of name value there, and is going to have time to where you've got, if there is any doubts, you're going to have opportunities to sell at a very similar price. So yeah, Caleb for me.
I'll go the other way. I'll take a Justin Herbert here, just because for Caleb there are still lots of question marks because we've not seen him play in the NFL. We don't know what's really going to happen. For Herbert, for me, there's no real question marks. I think he is one of those elite quarterbacks. I think he's going to be able to do it no matter what. I'm going to chat a little bit about Justin Herbert later, believe it or not. But I'll leave it for now just to say, yeah, I would take Justin Herbert. But Caleb, I think you're right, Ali. I think putting him in the top 10 right off the bat, can't really go too wrong for that. Herbert's just a bit higher for me. Herbert's still top 5 for me.
Cool. Absolutely love that. Thought that was going to be a good one to be close, because I had to go back and forth thinking about who I'd have over the other one, because I absolutely love Justin Herbert, and I'm going to sit on the fence and not give my answer. So we will quickly move on to someone that definitely divides opinion in terms of rookie prospects. We're going to talk about Jayden Daniels. He is my quarterback 2 of the class. There's not a massive difference to Drake Maye, but I just think the upside for me personally is just there for Daniels straight away, and the potential's there. Obviously, there's going to be a bigger risk, in my opinion. But Max, talk to me about Jayden Daniels. Do you really like Jayden Daniels? Is he your quarterback 2? What do you see when you look at the prospect Jayden Daniels?
Jayden Daniels is my quarterback 1 in 1 QB leagues. And that is a very, very different type of playing. Because if you're someone out there, and there are people still out there definitely that play in 1 quarterback leagues, the quarterback position is a lot less important. You're really looking for upside. And Jayden Daniels has a hell of a lot more upside than any other quarterback coming into this class. So that's the guy I would be taking even ahead of Caleb Williams, who I just said is a top 10 dynasty quarterback, because Jayden Daniels is a freak. Jayden Daniels had a game where he had 700 yards in throwing and rushing. That is an absolute joke. In the SEC, what many people say is the toughest division in college football, Jayden Daniels was number 3 in rushing, behind obviously a sea of running backs everywhere else. And that includes, by the way, in college where you get negative yards for sacks. We've had people coming in with negative rushing yards at the quarterback position. Daniels still finished 3rd overall in rushing. And as we know, in fantasy football, that is just absolute gold at the quarterback position. So I would take Daniels at 1 in a 1 QB league. But as soon as we transition over to Superflex and the quarterback position, becomes much, much more important, I'm less willing to take that risk. I'd be much more willing to take a guy like Caleb Williams over Jayden Daniels. For him and Drake Maye, if I'm in 4 leagues and I have the opportunity to draft them, I'm taking 2 shares of Daniels, 2 shares of Maye. I think they're in the same tier together here. Daniels brings the elite upside with his rushing ability and sort of unknown, but I am slightly terrified of how he takes hits. Like, he doesn't do very well with that. We've seen a hulking Anthony Richardson be put on the shelf with hits like that in the NFL. I'm concerned about Jayden Daniels and what is going to happen to him if he takes those hits. Hopefully, he's going to go somewhere where he's going to be coached well, and that's going to happen. Just it looks unfortunate that he might go get coached by Cliff Kingsbury, which, that's not great.
Oh, no, I love that. I think, first off, he's my QB2. Slightly different to Mags, that I've got him in a tier with Caleb, and then that's my tier. I think there is certain Dynasty Superflex builds where I'd be tempted to be aggressively looking to trade back from 101 to take Daniels if I'm looking to sort of really shoot for the stars, or even certain builds where maybe I had 2 safe QBs and wanted just to purely go on upside. But yeah, Caleb over Daniels in the main. There's loads to like in terms of his break. Like, people talk about him being in college 6 years. His breakout age was excellent when he broke out young. He's played at 3 different colleges, lots of different schemes, so there's plenty of experience there. You've got, like Max said, the production in the SEC, the rush upside. There's a lot to like. I think some of the knocks you get is, yeah, he's had this amazing season right at the end when he's the oldest guy in college, and the fact that he's year 6, and yeah, he's a slight frame. If he continues playing like he does, he's not going to be in the league long. So there's lots of risk there, but there's untapped, and like the ceiling is unreal for him. QB1 in Dynasty if everything hits, like Anthony Richardson is. So yeah, tons to like with Jaden Daniels. He's my QB2. He's my 4th overall prospect in terms of Dynasty rookie drafts. I'd be taking at 104. I think the 2 wide receivers, I just have them a little bit higher because of a risk point of view. But yeah, I've got no issue with someone needing a QB and they're at the 102 and taking Daniels, or the 103 and taking Daniels if that's the glaring need and they're wanting to flip their Dynasty rosters.
Yeah, you are a smart guy, Kev. You literally took the words out of my mouth when I was going to say he's my 104 in Superflex formats currently with
Stole your rankings.
But yeah, right. Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. Pick 2 and 3. But I just think when you account for 50 total touchdowns in that conference, you are special. Over 1,100 rushing yards. I just think that is something that I want on my Dynasty rosters. Obviously, he's very, very slight, which it does concern me how skinny he is when he has been taking these nasty hits in college, and they only get bigger and tougher in the NFL. Yeah. So them defenses are going to know exactly what to attempt to do. They're going to try and knock him out of the games because he can hurt you. So that does worry me. But the upside is just there where I have him over Drake Maye currently, just because, yeah, that is, if he hits, then you've absolutely made a home run pick who's going to be worth 3 firsts plus, perhaps even more. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, lads. And the first one,
Mags first.
Being, come on then, Mags. So
I'll go first.
How much does, obviously you are massively into Jaden Daniels, right? So how much does the demise of a poor Justin Fields, how does that affect your valuation of Jaden Daniels coming into the NFL? Because obviously the ceiling is Lamar Jackson. The floor is currently back up after 3 or 4 years in Justin Fields. So how does that go into your thinking when you are on the clock, perhaps at the 103, 104, and you want to pick Daniels?
I mean, keen listeners to the show will realize that this time last year I did say Justin Fields has either QB1 upside or had the ability to be everybody's favorite backup. So we're right back here again with Jaden Daniels. We're just going to have to see. With Justin Fields, it was never that I hated the prospect. It was never that I thought he was a bad player. Sure, I thought he maybe stared down his targets a little bit too much coming out of college. But that was the only massive knock on him. I thought he was a perfectly capable player, but he just showed himself completely incapable of winning games in the NFL. And while he may look good on your fantasy football team, I guarantee the GM of whatever team he's at doesn't give a damn about your fantasy football team or where he came in fantasy football that year. He got to win games. So it's going to come down to the same for Jaden Daniels. If Jaden Daniels gets drafted by the Washington Commanders and starts winning games, great. I'm happy. If he starts losing games and the Commanders are looking like they're going to miss the playoffs every year, I'm going to look to sell Jaden Daniels. And that's just how it's going to be. I'm going to use whatever the NFL gives me. I'm going to use that going forward because these guys right now, the GMs, they're either drafting a quarterback that can win them a Super Bowl, or they're moving on. And they're moving on quicker and quicker and quicker. So it's Super Bowl or bust for these guys. If Daniels can't win games, I'm moving on as soon as possible. I don't care how many points he scores in fantasy.
Yeah, you're a smart guy, Ali. It's a great question, so well done on that. I think it's probably the first good question you've ever asked. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's April the 2nd. It's not April Fool's Day. Yeah, I think to answer your question truly, the demise of Fields and others like Trey Lance, for me, has zero bearing because, and I think this is a community thing. We look at these dual threat QBs and say, oh, yeah, there's a lot of risk of dual threat QBs not hitting. People forget about like Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Josh Rosen. Pocket passers can still flame out. It's not just these guys that speech max can't throw. It's any QB prospect. So I think, like Max made a great point there about winning games and the QB record. That is an issue. That's something that's going to come into my thought process moving forward because I think Fields is good enough to be an NFL QB. I think he's more than good enough to be a fantasy QB. But yeah, winning games is super important. But I just want people to take away from this that it's not just your rushing QBs that are risky. It's any QB that doesn't hit and is going to potentially lose a job.
Yeah, love it. Two more things for me. So forgot to mention Lance Zierlein said that Jaden Daniels, in his opinion, is the most NFL-ready quarterback in this class, which makes me excited. And secondly, I've got hit you with another hypothetical scenario because we love these. This is the scenario. Jaden Daniels, no surprise, goes to the Commanders at pick 2. Drake Maye gets drafted to the Vikings at pick 3. Who do you have higher, Mags?
I'll stick to my pre-draft. I'll sit on the fence, Ali, with you. But yeah, I'll take 2 and 2. But that pushes it close to getting Drake Maye, like 3 out of 4. But Daniels just still has so much upside, even with the rushing. I don't care where Drake Maye lands. That rushing ability is crazy. I mean, what if the Vikings draft up and take Daniels, Ali? You ever think about that?
I love it, Max. Throw it back on it. Yeah, no change for me. I think we try not to worry about the situation too much because it can change. But yeah, what happens if Daniels is on the Chiefs? Kidding.
Chiefs. Wow. He'd be playing wide receiver because we've got a gap in that position after he's talked about it.
Yeah. Right, we better move on quickly to Drake Maye. So quarterback 3 for me. I think he's, again, very, very solid prospect. I can certainly see the upside. Do see him as a safer prospect than a Jaden Daniels, but there's definitely flaws to his game as well. Inconsistent passer. Sometimes you'll look at him and he makes an absolutely amazing throw, but then he can miss wide open passes. He certainly played against Leicester opposition, and yeah, he was absolutely fine, but he didn't light it up like a Jaden Daniels. So, come to you, Kev, on Drake Maye. What's your thoughts on Drake Maye, and how far away is he from a Jaden Daniels to you?
I'm going to try not to shit on Drake Maye. I'm going to really try. I think, first of all, like a bit of insight into my model, which nobody wants to hear about, but I've got a microphone, so unless Mags or Ali mutes me, you'll have to listen. But
I have muted him, Ali. That's so funny, actually. Isn't that like the best moment in fantasy wildcard history?
We've been trying for so long.
He just asked for it, and it's right there. Sorry, Kev. You can't team me up like that.
You'll never hear what I just said then. What's your guys' thoughts? So, in terms of the model, like, look, his score is fantastic. Like, I've got him round CJ Stroud, Tua, Anthony Richardson as an overall score. So, solid prospect. I have 7 different metrics where you meet certain thresholds. If you meet it, you get a tick, and he's ticking all the boxes. So that's like being a good passer in college QBR, breakout age. You've got some athletic testing. You've got film grades. You've got what conference he was in and the draft capital. So he's going to hit everything that I would want. So I do really love him as a prospect, but I think there is more risk in him than what I've seen in the main, and he's not my QB3. We'll come on to that shortly, but a bit of insight. We're having a chat earlier. I think me and Ali was in this chat together, and I said, "Oh, I've got something spicy to share tonight on the show," and Ali basically said, "Is it Drake Maye's your QB4?" And it was like that moment from The Simpsons where the episode where Bart says, "I didn't do it," and everyone's in the class looking at him, and Ali's waiting for me to tell him, and I'm like, "Drake Maye's my QB4," and it's like, get in. So yeah, look, it's not this on Drake Maye, but there's lots of things in his profile that I'm not a huge fan of. In terms of, first of all, the conference that he played in, the ACC. We just look at some of the prospects that have come out of the ACC. Might have no relevance at all, no correlation, but just over the past 5 or 6 years, you've got Trevor Lawrence, who's number 1 in my model. He's not been what was expected, what was hyped of him. You've got Daniel Jones. That's 50-50. You've got a guy like Kenny Pickett. What an absolute joke he is. Sam Howell, someone that's a backup, and he's going to be a backup until he never gets a chance again. So yeah, it's and then you're getting further down the list, etc. So we're not going to get into those names, but it's tough to say for one conference we're going to tarnish everybody because of level of competition. But I just think it's something to note as maybe a tiebreaker that these guys that come out of the ACC, because of playing less competition, less opposition, they're maybe not as battle tested as they should be. Now, I think a guy like Lawrence, obviously, Clemson were on fire. He's playing in bowl games. He's playing ranked teams often. I think Drake Maye's played against 4 ranked teams in his college career, 1 and 3 in those. So, yeah, I just feel that there's a bit of doubt there. He does things really good, but not as good as these top prospects. The next guy I'm going to talk about, there'll be a nice contrast to him as well. So, yeah, I like Drake Maye, but I won't be getting him till 105, 106 is basically where I'm at.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Like with the conference, sort of the caveat with that as well, though, it's he didn't have a very good offensive line. He didn't have very good wide receivers. He didn't have his best wide receiver for most of last season, but whenever I was looking at my model and looking at 2023 performances out of college, Drake Maye wasn't necessarily that far up my list of 2023 performances. So a lot of the ranking I have for Drake Maye is based off what, a lot of other people that I know have said and spoken about, and some 2022 film that I was sort of less clued up on compared to this year. That's where Drake Maye gets bumped up on my list more so than what I've seen with my own eyes last year. But I mean, I just can't get past this sort of thing. Like, this is a quote from I'll not reveal exactly where it's from, but it's from a well-known source. This is the exact quote. It says, "I like him to a degree. I don't think he's an elite player. He's kind of robotic and mechanical. His accuracy can be off at times. He has the classic look of an NFL quarterback. That's a guy that's burned a lot of people in the past. He's big and tall and good-looking, sure, and interviews well. He's smart and he throws the ball a mile. All that stuff. But he has concerns about his vision, and he's not the best playmaker I've ever seen." Does that sound like Drake Maye?
Oh, he's going to drop a Justin Herbert here.
It's Justin Herbert's draft profile. And I can't unsee it. I think it's a lazy comparison, sure, but whenever you see Drake Maye run and when you see Drake Maye throw, I can see Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was at a scheme at Oregon where he was held back. Part of me is wondering, is Drake Maye just being held back at North Carolina and we're ready to see another star come into the league? I can't quite make my mind up, though. He's really interesting.
It is funny because, like, when I watched, I think I saw my first glimpse of Drake Maye about 5-6 months ago in season. First clip I saw was Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, for me personally, entering 2023, the 2 names that I was interested in were Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, almost absolute neck and neck. But he just didn't quite excite me that much this this season, 2023. I don't know what it was, and I think he's going to be a good prospect. I think the upside is there for fantasy as well, but he's my 105. I don't think I'm likely to get many shares of him at 105, so he's probably someone that I'm not going to end up with a lot of shares on. I do want one. No, I probably want more than one.
Oh,
and I think
why, Ollie? Why do you want one?
The crowd are going to want this.
Stay the line.
Just in case.
Justin Herbert.
It always works.
I can't wait for the Drake Maye bobblehead behind Ali. It's like Magnus with Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah. You just never know. And it's not like I don't dislike Drake Maye, and I think he's closer to Daniels than I wanted him to be. And I think a lot of it depends on roster construction. So if you have a risk two or three riskier quarterbacks on your roster, you might want to go for a Drake Maye. But if you've got someone who gives you that high ceiling, I don't know, like a Kyler Murray, someone like that, then I'm happy to go for Drake Maye. Yeah, but if you need upside, then I'm definitely reaching for Jaden Daniels. So I think it's closer than I wanted it to be, but I'm definitely team Jaden Daniels. And that brings us on to the next hypothetical. So this is again, I'm not trying to say he's going to land here or here, but it's not looking like Drake Maye's going to get picked in picks 1 or 2 in the NFL draft. I think there's going to be Daniels and Caleb Williams. But what's the difference in value between, for you boys, whether, say, the Patriots think, yeah, we're going to take a swing on Drake Maye because in the community it's a situation where people don't want the quarterback to land in. What's the difference in value that you will put on Drake Maye if he was to go to the Patriots compared to if he landed on the Vikings, perhaps? Is it going to be a scenario where you push him up, I don't know, 8 spots in Dynasty? Is it just you're just going to go, I'm going to base it on talent, he's going to be here no matter where he lands? Or do you put that landing spot someone that we don't want, the Patriots, compared to someone that everybody wants the rookie to land on, the Vikings? So what's the difference in value if you land in them 2 different spots?
I can tell you exactly what the difference is. Like, it's pretty easy for me. The difference is Justin Jefferson. And all you have to do is look at Kirk Cousins pre and post Justin Jefferson. That's the difference. Kirk Cousins was a guy that nobody really wanted. And then he got Justin Jefferson. And all of a sudden, he's going to make Drake London a great player. We'll see about that.
Oh, I love it, Max. Love the Drake London triple down.
Yeah.
I had to, yeah. Had to.
I think, for me, like it's a landing spot's a tier decider for me. Like if you're really, really close. So Drake Maye and the QB3 for me, the next guy I want to speak about, it could potentially flip if the landing spots were like brilliant for Drake Maye and terrible for the next guy. But it'll be one spot in rookie drafts, and then startups it's maybe half a round, but I wouldn't be reacting too much based on the landing spot.
Yeah, absolutely love it. I know that I worded that completely wrong and went the long way around to ask a simple question, but we got what I meant anyway. And we'll move on to a quarterback that is gaining lots of momentum. And is it rightfully or wrongfully so? Who we going to go to first? We're going to go to Mags for this one first because I think Kev's going to get excited about this one. But
yeah,
JJ McCarthy, he is gaining momentum. The hype is building that he could be possibly going as high as pick 3, pick 4 in the NFL draft. How do you assess JJ McCarthy as a prospect for Dynasty?
It's hard. Like you say, pick 3 or 4. That's the amount of times he was allowed to throw the ball at Michigan. Like, that is just crazy. Like there's not a lot of tape for JJ McCarthy. If you're not a person that grinds tape and likes watching a lot of tape, start with JJ McCarthy because there's not a hell of a lot. Like multiple games last year, McCarthy was only allowed to throw the ball 10 or less times, which is incredible. Like, that's crazy. A lot of quarterbacks do that in a quarter in the NFL quite comfortably. Some people do it on a single drive. So it is kind of hard to determine what to look for with McCarthy, especially whenever you consider he's playing with the best defensive line in the league. I know the Washington Huskies, I think, won that award, but I mean, they really didn't. I mean, you see what happened. So he was playing with the best offensive line. He was playing with a team that were expecting the run to come. But then again, he was playing with, I mean, his best receiver was a guy like Roman Wilson, who's an okay guy. He's a pretty good prospect. So maybe that was the reason they weren't throwing the ball as much, because there wasn't as many weapons in the offensive game. Maybe it was because they were usually 20 points up by halftime and all they had to do was run the game out. So you can't really blame JJ McCarthy too much for what you didn't see. You can only judge him on what you can see. And what I can see is every now and again, they needed to put the ball in JJ McCarthy's hands to win a game, and they never lost. So, I mean, you can't really knock him on that. I think his real elite talent is actually the speed he throws the ball. We were talking before we went on air. JJ McCarthy was only second by, I think it was 0.1 of a mile per hour to Joe Milton, who we're not going to talk about quite rightly. And he is an absolute rocket of an arm. Maybe not in terms of different distance, but in terms of the zip he puts in the ball, really impressive, which is what you need in the NFL. You need to have that zip because these linebackers, these corners, these guys, they're on their toes at all times. They're ready to jump in. Some of these D linemen intercept the ball now. You need to be really quick. You need to get that ball out fast. And JJ McCarthy has that ability. So hopefully wherever he goes, whoever drafts him can use that one elite trait that I can see that he has to his advantage and get him safe for the ball, get it out quickly and slowly integrate him in. I think if he's expected to come in and be a Kirk Cousins, if he goes to the Vikings, like a lot of people are saying, and they're expecting him to come in, take that Kirk Cousins load, I think he might be in trouble year one because I don't think he's ready for that because how could he be?
Yeah, I think McCarthy's a guy that, I am warming to. He's my QB3. He's in that tier with Drake Maye for me. I'm kind of shocked that more people aren't placing him higher. I see him creeping to 108, 107, some places. I mean, first of all, the QB class for me, it's these top four guys are pretty amazing prospects. Like, I'm not going to say can't miss because there is risk there, but I can't think of the top four being this good for a while. That's including the Lawrence Fields, Lance, Wilson, Jones one. Like, I think these four really stand out to me as excellent. JJ McCarthy is a guy that he wasn't asked to do a ton in college, so it's a hard evaluation. Like, do you knock him because he's on a good team? The fact that if you're on a terrible team, you pass him 50 times or you're making exceptions, having to throw more. I don't know how much you can knock him for that, especially with how good the team was, getting the leads, like you said, Harbaugh's tendencies as a coach. But just looking at McCarthy over time, he was a 5-star prospect, same as Caleb Williams, not far off in terms of his ranking. Above Drake Maye was a 4-star. He's someone that's broke out early, better passing than Drake Maye in terms of college QBR. He's someone that's done it in a more difficult conference, albeit on a better team, but he's beaten ranked teams. He's won a national title. Like, he's lost one game as a starter in college over those final 2 seasons. And I know we can say that system QB, it's a bit like Brock Purdy, actually, in that sense. But, he's winning games. Is it because of him? Maybe not. But he's winning games. And we know now that's a big thing in the NFL, winning games, to keep in your job. So, look, I love McCarthy. He's expected to go to Vikings. I think people could be potentially late on him if you're doing rookie drafts before the draft. Just keep him in mind, I would say, if you've not got him in that tier around Drake Maye, around Jalen Daniels, think about it. If he's set to be on the Vikings, think people are just going to see Justin Jefferson and absolutely drop the knickers out. So get ahead of it, be open-minded. But Drake Maye, for me, he deserves to be in that tier with... JJ McCarthy deserves to be in that tier with Drake Maye. All I would say is I've got McCarthy and Maye. There will be some builds, some rosters where I go Drake Maye for upside or I go McCarthy for the safer guy. I think he's a can't-miss prospect, though. But it's just, what will he be a Derek Carr? Will he be that level of guy. I think, was it T-Strack was on your hot seat last week, Mags?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
NFL T-Strack, and I think he comped McCarthy to Derek Carr, which, if that's what he is for fantasy, crack him. QB 16, QB 20 every season. I'll take that at 108 where you're paying for him now.
Yeah, you boys have absolutely summed it up so well, Mags. I was going to give you a round of applause with what you said about we've not seen the untapped potential of JJ McCarthy. And Kev, you having him ranked that high, just giving me extra confidence to have McCarthy. I mean, he's going to be higher than Brock Bowers in non-tight end premium leagues for me in terms of my rookie drafts. And yeah, this guy's a winner. I think NFL absolutely covets winners. I think there's a reason why the Vikings have got themselves an extra first-round pick, because they absolutely need to get ahead of the Raiders, the Broncos, to be that fourth team, to get that fourth quarterback. I mean, it could be the third quarterback taken in the draft. There's not absolutely out of the realms of possibility. He's gaining momentum. And with that, no matter where he goes, but if he does go to the Vikings, you've got yourself a safe prospect, an asset that's trending upwards. And I think you're right, Kev. People are going to be late to the party on McCarthy. I think a lot of people see him as a system quarterback in that Michigan offense, and the fact that they ran the ball an absolute ton, he didn't have to do a lot. But as you mentioned, when he was called upon, he was there to make the plays. So I think well deserving of at least a mid-first round rookie pick. And who knows, he could be consensus. It could be, especially if he goes to the Vikings, he could end up right there with Drake Maye and Jaden Daniels in your rookie drafts. It's absolutely fascinating to see what happens. So again, I have to throw hypothetical at you boys, because it does. I don't like to say, although I have done it tonight, to say, right, he goes here, he goes there. But the likely scenario is the Vikings go all in. We don't know where they're going to trade up to, but whether it's pick 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. But they land McCarthy, their guy. How high is he ranked in terms of Dynasty for you boys? And would you take him over these two quarterbacks? So the first one would be Jared Goff. Whereabouts would he rank with Jared Goff in Dynasty? Because you're talking Jared Goff, you're talking what, quarterback 17 in terms of Dynasty, 16, something like that, on a fantastic offense. Would he be there for you? Would he be lower, or would he be higher?
Above Drake Maye. I think Jared Goff's underrated. Like, he's been underrated the past few years. He's someone you know what you're going to get. Small hands like JJ McCarthy, actually, but that might not be true. Yeah, I think. God, that's so tough. That's so tough. That's a great question. That's the second great question you've done in your whole life.
2 for 2.
Just give him McCarthy, man. Like, let's re-roll. Let's see if we can get something that's better than Jared Goff, which I might not, but I might.
Mags.
Yeah, this is so close. This is a good question. So JJ McCarthy, we're expecting to go at like the 105, 106, I would imagine. So in my head, I'm thinking I get an offer for Jared Goff in my Superflex leagues. Jared Goff for the 106. Do I accept? I'm probably asking for a little bit more. There. So I think I would take Jared Goff, but I mean, everyone's getting super excited about JJ McCarthy with pairing with Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, all those guys, which, you know, that is exciting. But man, I'm excited if he gets paired with Kevin O'Connell. That's exciting for me as well. I think he runs a really cool scheme. I think he's a really clever head coach. He doesn't quite get the praise that he deserves, because let's not forget, he ran a really interesting passing scheme this year without Kirk Cousins, without Justin Jefferson for a lot of the time. He knows how to push and pull different pieces around. So I think if he does end up with Kevin O'Connell, that would make it really close to me. But
great first.
I think a great first name is right. You're right. Almost a great second name if you could just, you know, change it around a little bit. But man, I'd still just take a Jared Goff, because I know that Jared Goff's going to be a top 12 quarterback next year. I don't see like too many guys leaping ahead of him. I think JJ McCarthy might be a safer like you mentioned earlier, like a Derek Carr, where maybe 1 or 2 years he might jump up above that. But Jared Goff's just so safe for me for the next 5 years, so I'll take Goff just.
Nice. Thought that was going to be another good
I might
one.
take Goff as well, actually.
Yeah, we like Goff. We like
We'll
Goff
see.
on the wild card.
Yeah.
He's been someone that we've bigged up forever. He's forever underrated. Talking about underrated, is this next quarterback underrated? I'm going to throw it to you, Kev. We're going to talk about Bo Nix. Certainly an interesting prospect, someone that's not getting a lot of hype in terms of sort of maybe the first round of the NFL draft, so perhaps it's going to be day 2. But in terms of Dynasty, Kev, are you in or are you out on this player, Bo Nix?
I think a lot will depend on his draft capital, first of all. I think naturally you're going to see more Dynasty managers in on QB because of how last year went and the number of backup QBs that were playing and on waivers and getting traded for. I saw a lot more action at QB than I've ever seen before, both on waivers and just trades for backups here for the odd couple of games. So he's going to be interesting on the whole. It's just how interested will be based on is he a round 1 guy, round 2 guy, round 3 guy, etc. I think what I like about Nix is he's been in college for I think 5 seasons. He's experienced. He's been in. I seem to think he's had different coordinators each season, so he's got a lot of experience, lots of different schemes and systems and concepts that he's done in college. I read a really interesting article about linking him to the Broncos. Someone that Sean Payton would have a field day with, someone that's really smart and that can digest a playbook and run lots of different things. Because I think physically he can do certain things. He's decent as a runner, plenty to like as a passer. So yeah, I think draft capital is going to determine where I am on him. But I think as it stands now, he's someone that I'll be looking at in round 2 of rookie drafts, and depending on where he goes in real life will sort of take me to where I place him in rookie drafts.
Change that B to an N, because that is how I feel about Bo. I mean, I'm being harsh. Bo Nix is an incredibly good college quarterback, but that's like me being incredibly good playing against a primary school football team. Like I'm just much older, much better than these guys. I know the game a lot more. Bo Nix was a great product of a good scheme over at Oregon, where they kept it simple. They worked it out. They beat all the teams they should have beat, and they lost to all the teams they should have lost to. Like he's done really well.
Sounds like Gareth Southgate. That
he is Gareth Southgate. Basically, he probably has a collection of nice sort of what they call vests. Yeah, those nice like sort of vests. Right, he's got a couple of those. I'm sure waistcoats. Right. But for me, Bo Nix is the guy sitting in the green room at the end of round 1 that hasn't been drafted. Like that is Bo Nix. I can just visualize it. I can see it. He's a backup quarterback. He might get a chance every now and again, but I'm not going to draft Bo Nix anywhere. And I thought he had a good season. I thought he was the 3rd best quarterback in college last year. I thought he had a better college season last year than Caleb Williams did. But I just don't see it translating to the NFL. So I just don't see myself owning a lot of Bo Nix.
Yeah, I think the best thing about Bo Nix is the Oregon Ducks. The jerseys, I do love them. Them green jerseys are absolutely sexy. Green's my favorite color, but he's just not my favorite quarterback. And I wanted to like him more because you look at the stats on paper of what he managed to do. 2022, 14 rushing touchdowns. And I thought, hello, I'm going to like this Konami-style quarterback prospect, this 5th-year player. And to be fair, he's had two decent seasons back-to-back, but he just doesn't pop off for me. I'm all right, as a 45 passing touchdowns, it's just 3 interceptions. That is amazing. But when you watch him, I just don't know whether it's the system. I absolutely love Troy Franklin, his wide receiver. He's definitely in play for my wide receiver 4. But yeah, I'm just not there with Bo Nix. I think the best scenario would be for him to land with Sean Payton in Denver Broncos. I think I would get pretty excited for that. But then I think that a lot of people will get excited for that. And I think you can see him push for early round 2, which is probably going to be too much for me to take. I actually prefer the next quarterback that we're going to talk about. But yeah, with that, I'm going to throw in a hypothetical for you boys. So the scenario is he does go to the Denver Broncos in round 2 and he competes to be their starter. Would you prefer him over Derek Carr in Dynasty? It's a funny one, but it got me thinking, this did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said he's sort of, who's this Konami? He's less Konami, more like Nokia N-Gage, right? He's just like the very bottom drawer of that kind of device. I'll still take Bo Nix over Derek. I think Derek Carr's got one more year in him most, so I'll take Bo Nix.
Yeah, similar thought process to Mags. Like Derek Carr's a little bit scary with sort of the contract and how he's bombed out a little bit there. So yeah, Bo Nix for Sean Payton sounds pretty decent.
Yeah,
it does. I mean, the second that Russell Wilson got cut with that massive dead cap hit, they have to have something in mind that they're going to be going in. They need to be targeting a quarterback in this draft, whether it's Bo Nix round 2, whether they go for a later guy, I don't know. But that just the link up with Sean Payton would be slightly exciting, at least to me. But more excited I am to talk about this next guy in Michael Penix, the guy that Jordan would love to be talking about right now. The guy with absolute massive hands. Not talking about Jordan, I'm talking about Michael Penix, the absolute gunslinger. And who knew he actually's got wheels, man? 4.46 ran a 40 on his pro day, and yeah, I mean, but this is a guy that wasn't allowed to run, so you need to give him that at least. So who am I going to first for Michael Penix? Mags, let's talk about Michael Penix. Obviously, 6-year college career. He is officially 4 months older than Sam Howell, who's had his chance in the NFL.
I thought you were going to say everyone.
How excited are you for Michael Penix in Dynasty? Because I've been seeing some mock drafts with him being a round 1 pick, sort of definitely higher than Bo Nix. So if you got that round 1 draft capital, would you be excited for Michael Penix, or are you just, again, like Bo Nix, are you out in Dynasty?
No, I'm nowhere near close to being as high as I am with Bo Nix. In fact, if Michael Penix was 22 years old, he would be right up there with Caleb Williams in this draft. It's the age thing that people are taking. Wow. Yeah, but like if we look at JJ McCarthy, we just spoke about as being QB3. There are more things that Michael Penix does better than JJ McCarthy than there are things JJ McCarthy does better than Michael Penix, and that's a fact. Like Michael Penix Jr. has a infinitely better arm than JJ McCarthy. The deep ball in particular is just so much better. I think Michael Penix, he's not more athletic, but we did see that pro day. I mean, in quarter, like Michael Penix can move whenever he needs to move as well. The only real knock on Michael Penix Jr. seems to be the fact that he is a bit older. And I did see under pressure that he did tend to panic a little bit. JJ McCarthy did as well. There wasn't a lot of the times that either of these guys were under a huge amount of pressure. So I think Penix is pretty close to JJ McCarthy for me. I still have McCarthy ahead, but Penix has arguably the best deep ball in this class. But man, he was thrown to the best wide receiver core that anyone had in this class. Maybe barring Jaden Daniels, he had sort of 2 where Penix had weapons everywhere that you look. So there is that caveat. Why was it that he only started to look good whenever all of these wide receivers started looking good? Was it him or was it more of them? I think Penix is a really good prospect. I think he's good enough to start in the NFL, and I think he's being underdrafted right now.
Yeah, I mean, we can't hammer Bo Nix for playing a bunch of nobodies and then hyping up Penix for playing the same.
That's true.
I think Nix and Penix, for me, they're very similar. Like, if any of those get round 1 draft capital, I'm on alert. I'm thinking, wow, a franchise really believes in these prospects. And I'd have Penix above Nix.
Yeah.
A lot of film people, a lot of NFL people really like Penix more than I do. So maybe he gets drafted higher than I expect. I think Daniel Jeremiah had him as top 35 prospect. So right on that cusp, maybe you see someone dive into the end of round 1 to get Penix, or top of round 2, a bit like Will Levis. Like, if he goes pick 33, 34 like Will Levis did, he's a better prospect than Will Levis in my eyes. So you'd have to have some excitement there, depending on what landing spot it was. There's bits to like in his profile. Passing, he looks great with the zip and the some of the decision making, getting out quick, deep ball, etc. But yeah, great O-line, great weapons. Sixth year, major breakout. It's a tough one. It's going to all do turn out on draft capital, if we're honest. But I do like him more than Nix.
Right, let's dive into that draft capital, because the next hypothetical is he gets drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders. They get desperate because I don't believe they've got a round 2 pick. I think I heard that. So I think they get desperate. Round 1, they draft him. I think they have picked 13 overall, something like that. If he gets mid first round draft capital, are you taking Michael Penix or are you taking Justin Fields in Dynasty?
Yeah, I've been saying this for a while. I think the Raiders are going to trade back from 13. I think they're going to take Michael Penix and pair him up with Devontae Adams. I think that is a great matchup. That's one of those things I can just see happening. They need a quarterback. Penix is right there. And with that scheme, I'm excited for Michael Penix. I'm taking him over Justin Fields. Yeah.
You're a horrible guy, Ali. You know that I'm the chairman of the Justin Fields fan club.
I'm there.
Yeah, you're also on that. I think you're the I don't know, treasurer.
I'm the secretary. Yeah, treasurer.
I'm a treasurer by day job. Anyway, let's move on from that. God, yeah, that's tough. Because I think if you're a rebuilder and you really, really, truly believe in Justin Fields is going to get a job in the future, then it's Justin Fields. But it's a chance to re-roll on a round 1 QB that's going to have 2 to 3 years. So it'd be stupid to say Fields, in my eyes, in this one. Unless you're a crazy believer like me, it's got to be Penix and the fact that you've got a window in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, I didn't want to ask that question, but I thought it would be interesting. It really got me thinking early on. So we have been on the show nearly an hour and we haven't talked about any tight ends yet. So we need to talk about especially these 2, because this tight end is, since I've been in fantasy football, this is the best tight end prospect for me. I think because he's such a complete tight end. As a freshman, 13 receiving touchdowns was just insane. And I think for someone that is not the biggest tight end in the NFL, I think he's an elite blocker, and he's going to do it all in Dynasty. I've got no concerns about Brock Bowers. It's just how high do you go with Brock Bowers? So Kev, talk to us about Brock Bowers and how high you are on the prospect.
Yeah, we thought we'd kick off tight end with someone that's not been spoken about for the last 3 years. Like, ever since his first year as a freshman, like, Devi people have been all over Brock Bowers, and he's really lived up to his name. I think most hype since Kyle Pitts, easily. For me, he's the 8th best prospect in terms of your Dynasty rookie drafts. I'd have him at 108. Some people have him higher, but I just think truly look at elite tight end values versus, like, say, a top 15, 20 wide receiver, or I don't know, a QB 15, 16. Like, it's pretty. You're not going to get a tight end at that level, I don't think. So people are assuming that he's just automatically going to perform and be like your top three. The Laporta thing probably doesn't help him. The fact that he's smashed it, because the expectation is he comes in and does better than Laporta because he's a better prospect, which I think it's unfair. A lot to like about him, the fact that he's got all this hype that you will have windows to sell. Like if you draft him and he doesn't perform, like with Kyle Pitts, if you have Pitts from the beginning, you've had about 6 windows to sell him, probably 4 or 5 windows. So yeah, I think as a prospect, look, fantastic receiver, great in the red zone. He runs a little bit like Bobby Boucher from Waterboy. Really, really upright and frantic and everything like that. But yeah, he's considered a can't miss prospect, an elite prospect. Film guys, analytics guys, everybody really likes Bowers, but it'd be just temper your expectations. Don't take him too early in rookie drafts, and be aware that Sam Laporta is not his median range of outcomes. His median is probably a mid tight end one, we'll say, as his middle. It could be tight end one overall in Dynasty easily for years to come, but it might not. It might be tight end 3 for a little bit first.
Yeah, Bowers is a great prospect. The only thing I would pump the brakes on, I've seen a lot of people getting excited that you're getting like the Dynasty tight end 1 overall, which you might well be, but don't get it twisted. Dynasty tight end 1 overall is not Travis Kelce from a couple of years ago. Just because Kelce was the tight end 1 overall and was giving you 200 fantasy points a season does not mean that every time there's a Dynasty tight end 1 overall, that's what you're getting. Last year, we've seen Sam Laporta finish as tight end 1. He was, I think, 60, maybe more points behind what Travis Kelce did the previous season. So while Kelce, when he was on top, was getting you 200 points a year, finishing as what would have been wide receiver 4 or 5, no one is like that anymore. So you need to really temper what having the number 1 tight end overall means to your team now. Sure, this might be Brock Bowers, but please don't make the mistake of thinking that you've got another Kelce, because he's a complete unicorn.
Yeah, I certainly agree with a lot of what's been said between you lads. I think he's like I say, he's the best tight end prospect that I've seen in my time in fantasy. But then again, this is a very special class in the top end of round 1. So I think taking him ahead of certainly the 2 wide receivers and the top 4 quarterbacks for me is not going to happen. But yeah, he could easily be tight end 1 in a year's time. The lowest I can see him being is probably tight end 8, just because of the name and what he's managed to produce in college. So I think you're getting a very, very safe prospect. And depending on whether it's a massive tight end premium, then I can see him being slightly higher. But I have to have a hypothetical here. It's going to be a quick one because I know we're pushing for time. He gets drafted top 15. So we're talking about the landing spots. The Jets, I think they're pick 10. I think they're interested. The Colts pick 15. They're the 2 teams that get mocked to pick Bowers the most. So he gets picked top 15. Would you prefer Brock Bowers or, this is for you, Mags, Dalton Kincaid in Dynasty?
This is easy. Have you seen people can't read what's written behind me? You know what that says? It says 2024 hot takes. You know what it says right under my thumb right here? It says Dalton Kincaid is Dynasty tight end 1 in 2025. So that tells you all you need to know.
Have it, Kev?
How can I follow that up? Yeah, I mean, I quite like the idea of the Colts. Like every year, it's like, oh yeah, tight end's going to be good on the Colts. It's been like the Chargers over the past 5 years. Yeah, I think just give me Bowers. Like, I really like Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir. I just worry a little bit about
where's
those.
that mute button again? Sorry, I use that again.
Yeah, I think I'd lean Brock Bowers just because of the likability factor. The Dynasty Trades with 5 guys. We'll talk about this likability scale, and I just think you're very, very insulated with Brock Bowers. But what about this one quickly? Brock Bowers or Kyle Pitts, the guy that the last generational unicorn tight end to come out?
That's easily Bowers.
Yeah. Not easily Bowers, but I'll still take Bowers.
Yeah, I think Bowers, but I think that's interesting. I think keep trade cut. I've got Kyle Pitts back up to tight end 3 or 4. I think, obviously based on Kirk
What's
Cousins
wrong with
landing
people?
in Atlanta. So, there's that, and we'll finish on the second tight end prospect when you talk about, because this is a guy that I'm definitely excited about, and Jatavian Sanders. I absolutely love Sanders. I also love the fact that he didn't absolutely smash the combine, because I think some people are actually now ranking him lower, or he's losing a little bit of value, which I absolutely love, because this guy's got absolute elite athleticism. For me, he's just a souped up, jumped up wide receiver. He can do it all. So excited to see him go to a team that could potentially use him in the right way, and him be that big wide receiver, because you don't want him in there blocking, because that's not what he's good at. So I'm going to throw this over to Mags for your take on Jatavian Sanders.
Yeah, love Jatavian Sanders. You're right, Ali. He could be a big, souped-up wide receiver for sure. He's got so many skills that we just didn't really get to see at Texas too much. Because sadly, Texas had a lot of weapons. They got a hell of a lot more this year if anyone's following college football. Texas, look out for those wide receivers. But yeah, Sanders didn't get enough of the ball that I would have liked to have seen, just like his teammates Worthy and Adonai Mitchell as well. But I think he's a dangerous player with the ball in his hands. He can make a difference. I'm going to wait to see where he ends up and look at the coaching staff and look at traditionally how they've used tight ends. But, I mean, you just, beggars belief would be, you draft Sanders to get him to catch the ball. Loads of people have talked about, the Chargers, like we said, about how they use tight ends. A lot of people have mocked Brock Bowers to the Chargers at 5. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Chargers actually go take a guy like Sanders in round 2.
Yeah, I think my tight end sort of research this offseason, it's Brock Bowers, and then the only other tight ends I really like are Sidney Sweeney and Dua Lipa. So just I'm joking. Obviously, I know a little bit. I think Jatavian Sanders. Look, Mags hit the nail on the head with the other great weapons that have got there. Not even mentioning generational running backs, Jonathan Brooks jokes, Bijan Robinson. I think a lot will depend on draft capital. If he's early round 2, late round 1, brilliant. Start getting to think about where am I going to take him mid round 2 in rookie drafts. If he's not round 2, it makes it trickier for me, if I'm honest. Yeah. I think he's that good a prospect that he's going to be in your first 2 rounds of rookie drafts. But it's just where he goes will dictate where he lands. But I think, really solid prospect, untapped potential. Combine doesn't really affect my view too much, because what you see on tape is a slightly different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring it up because there was certainly some tight ends that absolutely popped off on the combine and just exploded. And people are like, oh, look at that guy. He's fast and he's big. So they could vault him up rookie boards, whereas this guy, Sanders, is... I saw a lot of times he was mid-second round pick. I think he's fallen now towards the back end of round 2, which I'm excited if I can get him at back end of round 2. I think he's a lock for the round 2 in the NFL draft, which would be absolutely perfect. And if he went to the Chargers, that is just chef's kiss perfection. So
every year with the Chargers tight end, isn't it?
Had to be one go to the Chargers.
Yes, someone who can catch the ball. He and Nurse is tight end 1 at the minute. Like, what's going on here?
Let's just finish it with a hypothetical, and I'm not even going to name the team that he lands on because it's going to be so random in round 2. But any team you want, round 2, do you take Jatavian Sanders over Cole Kmet in Dynasty? Yes or no?
Ooh. That's a good one. So, if you like Caleb Williams, you should be going out there and trying to buy Cole Kmet, which is something I wanted to say earlier, because Cole Kmet has shown himself to be a pretty solid NFL tight end. But Jatavian Sanders Jatavian Sanders could be Cole Kmet, right? Maybe at best, maybe slightly better. I think that's that's a hat trick, Ali. I'm just going to throw it out there. That's 3 good questions that you've thrown out there this episode. I'm a slight sneaky. I don't mention it too often. I'm a slight sneaky homer for Cole Kmet, although the weapons at the Bears are building up. So
Keenan Allen scares me.
Yeah, give me Sanders. I'm not happy about it, but yeah, give me Sanders.
Yeah, the best 3 questions you've asked.
Love it.
Cole Kmet's like so young, still really young prospect. But yeah, let me re-roll with Sanders.
Yeah, I was trying to think how high he would go up in my rankings with really solid draft capital round 2, and I just thought Cole Kmet is someone that sneakily produces a bit like Evan Ingram, someone that people don't really like as their tight end 1, but he just produces, and he'd probably just sneak in there beside Cole Kmet. But he's got more upside, I think, than Cole Kmet now that you've got at least one year of Keenan Allen if he can stay healthy, and obviously DJ Moore there to feast. So with that brings us to the end of tonight's show, where we have discussed in some decent detail the incoming rookies at quarterback and a couple of tight ends. There's certainly a sprinkle of some more to talk about. Perhaps we'll get into them on a later show, but those are the main 2 certainly. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us and subscribe on X and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty, and join us for our show every single Wednesday of the off season. Yes, thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon.
When you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.